If Walt Disney could be summarized with a single word, it would be visionary. As a film producer, he had an eye for things, seeing what others could not. When Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was in production, Hollywood scoffed. It cost over $1 million in 1930s money, and people mockingly called it Disney's folly. The film was a critical success, and it went on to gross over $8 million in its initial theatrical run.
The film was a critical success and went on to gross over $8 million in its initial theatrical run. Following in its wake, Disney produced several other animated films which went on to become instant classics, including the focus of today's review. Fantasia was released in 1940, and like Snow White, it was ambitious. While animation set to classical music had been done before, it hadn't yet been done as a full-length feature. Originally set to be a single short starring Mickey Mouse, whose popularity Walt thought was starting to wane, budget overruns brought about concerns, as Walt's brother Roy felt a short wouldn't recoup the studio's investment. The decision was made to add more segments while managing the budget conservatively. Leopold Stokowski handled the musical arrangement. At the time, he was one of the country's leading conductors and performed with the Philadelphia Orchestra. He was brought on board after a chance meeting with Walt at a restaurant in Hollywood. Disney explained his ideas for Fantasia, and Stokowski was intrigued by the project, offering his services free of charge.
To complement the animation, Stokowski approached the score with instrumental coloring, helping the film and sound flow together magically. He also appears on screen at the beginning and end of each segment, showing his freehand conducting style.
As production went on, Stokowski felt Fantasia needed an on-screen host to introduce each segment to the audience, and both felt the composer and music critic Deems Taylor was right for the job.
At the time, Taylor was providing intermission commentary for the New York Philharmonic, so Master of Ceremonies was a suitable role for him. He had the perfect narrator voice, and his explanations didn't talk down to the audience. Hard to imagine anyone else in the role.
Fantasia was released on November 13, 1940. While it was an instant success with critics, that reception didn't translate to box office success. Pictures, who was distributing Disney films at the time, felt Fantasia's 2-hour runtime was too long for general release. After some negotiations, RKO gave the film a roadshow release, shipping it to theaters across the country who would play Fantasia as a special attraction. The film drew, but marketing and sound setups pushed total costs further into the red. World War II also played a part, as it cut off the European market, which accounted for 45% of Disney revenue at the time. The film had several re-releases over the next few decades, but the original cut was never shown again. The 1942 version had Taylor's commentary and the opening number completely removed. They were restored in the 1946 version, but the film was edited down slightly. Fantasia passed the break-even point with the 1969 release, which was promoted with a psychedelic-leaning advertising campaign, which made it popular with teens and young adults, who reportedly watched the film while high. For the jolting removal of 4 scenes from the Pastoral Symphony over racial stereotyping. Said scenes were eventually restored, but zoomed in to avoid the offending character. For the 1982 release, Irwin Costell re-recorded the entire score, using Stokowski's pacing and tempo as a template. It took 18 recording sessions and cost over $1 million. Taylor's narration was once again deleted, although this time it was replaced by a briefer one by Hugh Douglas. This version played again in 1985, although the narration was performed by Tim Matheson. For the 1990 re-release, Disney returned to the 46 cut, restoring the film from its original negative. This restoration took over 2 years, but was well worth the time. The animation looked crisper and the audio cleaner, as thousands of hisses and pops were removed. The restored version was the first cut released on home video, and it was the version I grew up with.
Throughout my childhood, I would pop the VHS in again and again, watching in awe as Mickey, dinosaurs, and mythological creatures filled the screen with wonder.
Fantasia not only made me love animation and storytelling, but it's partially responsible for my melodic musical taste. Fantasia is a well-constructed film. The animation is wonderfully picturesque, styles shifting from segment to segment so that no two feel identical, and ebbing and flowing to the score. The toccata and fugue is abstract with its coloring, whereas The Sorcerer's Apprentice is traditional Disney. Even if one doesn't enjoy every segment, there's at least one he or she will enjoy. While I'm not personally a fan of Stokowski's rendition of Ave Maria, and it is my least favorite segment, I appreciate its animation and how well it complements Bald Mountain. I'm not the biggest fan of the soundtrack, but considering Fantasia's reliance on music, I understand why it's included. Like all art, preference is subjective, and these nitpicks don't keep me from enjoying Disney's masterwork. If anything, it makes me savor what works even more, as well as increasing my longing to see this film re-released in theaters again.
If you haven't seen Fantasia, it comes with my highest recommendation. Put it on and enjoy, as you're about to take a trip through imagination.